grew up in a Protestant church, any Protestant church, you know that hymn. And if you didn't grow up in church at all, there's a reasonable chance you've still heard it. It has been sung at coronations, at funerals of heads of state, at the opening of parliaments. It was sung by soldiers marching into battle. It has been arranged by Bach, by Mendelssohn, by Brahms. It showed up in a Coen Brothers film. This hymn has been everywhere for 500 years. Today, we're going to find out why. Welcome to Pull All the Stops. I'm Jillian Gardner. This is Hymn of the Week. And this week, we're talking about A Mighty Fortress is Our God. The year is 1529. Martin Luther is 45 years old, and he is having, to put it mildly, a difficult decade. He has been excommunicated from the Catholic Church. He has been declared an outlaw by the Holy Roman Emperor. There is a standing order that anyone can kill him without legal consequence. He has survived an assassination attempt, spent nearly a year in hiding in a castle, and watched the religious movement he started splinter into factions he can't fully control. In the middle of all of that, he writes one of the most defiant, most confident, most enduring pieces of music in the history of the Christian church. That is not a coincidence. That is the point. Luther was not writing A Mighty Fortress from a place of comfort and safety. He was writing it from the middle of the storm. And that context, that the man who wrote A Mighty Fortress is Our God was a man whose life was genuinely under threat, changes everything about how you hear it. Luther was a theologian, a reformer, a professor, but he was also a musician. He played the lute, he sang, he composed. He believed passionately that music was one of the greatest gifts God had given humanity, second only to theology itself. He wrote hymns deliberately and strategically because he wanted ordinary people, not just clergy, to participate in worship through song, in their own language, to their own tunes. A Mighty Fortress was part of that project, and it became the anthem of the Reformation. The hymn is based on Psalm 46, one of the greatest psalms of confidence and refuge. God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Luther takes the psalm and turns it into something more urgent, more personal, more combative. The first verse establishes the fortress image. God is an unassailable stronghold. But notice what Luther does in the second verse. He doesn't stay with the comfortable image of safety. He names the enemy directly. Did we in our own strength confide, our striving would be losing. That line is doing something really important. Luther is acknowledging right there in the hymn that human effort alone is not enough, that the Reformation he started, the cause he was fighting for, could not succeed on its own terms. It needed something beyond human strength. And then, the man of valor, Christ, enters the hymn, and the tone shifts completely. This is what makes the theology of this hymn so remarkable. It holds two things at the same time, the reality of the threat and the certainty of the victory. Luther doesn't pretend the danger isn't real, he names it, and then he says it doesn't matter. The final verse lands one of the most striking lines in all of hymnody. And though this world with devils filled should threaten to undo us, we will not fear. And it ends with, the body they may kill, God's truth abideth still. For a man who was literally an outlaw, who could legally be killed on sight, that final verse was not a metaphor. It was a statement of actual belief in the face of actual danger. That's what we're singing when we sing this hymn. That's the weight of it. Now let's talk about the tune, because the music is just as remarkable as the text. Luther wrote both the words and the music himself. The tune is called EIN FESTE BURG, German for A Mighty Fortress, and it is one of the most immediately recognizable melodies in Western music. What makes it work is the rhythm. Luther uses what's called an isorhythmic structure, a repeated rhythmic pattern that gives the tune a sense of forward motion. Every phrase feels like it's driving towards something. There's no meandering, no decoration for its own sake. It's lean and purposeful, which matches the text perfectly. The tune has been harmonized by practically every major composer of the last 500 years. Bach used it in at least 5 cantatas. Mendelssohn built his Reformation symphony around it. Brahms quoted it. Meyerbeer put it in an opera. And yet, even with all of that history, when you hear it on the organ in a church with a congregation singing, there is nothing quite like it. The pipe organ is the instrument this tune was built for. The weight of the bass, the clarity of the melody in the upper voices, the way the harmonies fill a room. Let me show you what I mean. 500 years. That's how long this hymn has been in continuous use. Think about what has happened in 500 years of history. Reformations and counter-reformations, revolutions, 2 world wars, the collapse of empires, the rise and fall of entire civilizations, and through all of it, in churches on every continent, in languages Luther never spoke, in traditions he never imagined, people have been singing this hymn. There is something in it that speaks to a universal human experience, the experience of being up against something bigger than yourself and finding a reason not to be afraid. That is not a 16th century German experience. That is every century, every culture, every human being who has ever felt overwhelmed by the world. That's why it endures. Not because it's old, because it's true. Next Tuesday on Pull All the Stops, Composer of the Week. We're moving from Bach to someone you may not know as well, but absolutely should. Dietrich Buxtehude. He was the organist Bach walked 200 miles to hear. Yes, walked 200 miles. We're going to find out what was worth the trip. Subscribe so you don't miss it. New videos every Tuesday and Friday. And leave a comment. I want to know, where did you first hear A Mighty Fortress? In a church? At a concert? Did you know the story behind it before today? I'm Jillian Gardner. This is Pull All the Stops.